Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
You are now tuned in to this week's episode of our podcast. Today, we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. By sharing our collective expertise, we will show you how to harness, control, and use your own skill set to achieve ultimate success and live the life you want. And now, please welcome your host.
Good to have your Life Well Lived, Omobola Stephen. My name is Omobola Stephen. Now, on Life Well Lived, we like to focus on personal development and self-improvement because we've come to realize the importance of personal development and self-improvement for us to move from where we have to where we need to be. Now, personal development is a lifelong process that we almost embrace in life. I know it's what they happen at the end of the day if we don't give up. All the innate gifts, the potentials that lies within can only come to the fore when we personally develop and self-improve ourselves. Today on the show, I have Micheal Levitt, who is the founder of Breakfast Leadership. He's there to talk about workplace burnout and also burnout in our personal life. Welcome with me on Life Well Lived, Micheal Levitt.
Great to be here today. Looking forward to our conversation.
Great to have you on the show, Micheal. Looking forward also to the conversation. Let's begin with the workplace burnout. What's your take about workplace burnout issues that most employees and leaders have?
I think burnout's been around a long time, but what we've seen, especially since the Great Recession back in 2008, when a lot of organizations were cutting staff, the people that were left behind, their workloads increased because the work still needed to be done. And many organizations would give people a little bit of extra money, but there's only so many hours in the day. So the workloads of people have been steadily increasing over the years. And even during the pandemic, we found that as well, where a lot of people were working longer hours remotely because they had to juggle not only working from home, but then also taking care of their home life, whether it's raising kids or just being home all the time. So a lot of it is played into this. And just for your audience, the World Health Organization actually gave a clinical definition of burnout, and it's basically, just paraphrasing, it's when you're physically and mentally overwhelmed by the demands of life and work. And what's happening is just a lot more people are recognizing it because there's a lot more talk about it. So people are looking and going, wait a minute, I think I'm burned out or I'm approaching burnout because I'm checking all the boxes of the signs of burnout, and it's creating some problems, not only in the work life, but home life as well. Because when you are constantly on the go and you're burning out, it impacts every aspect of your life.
Absolutely. Now, it does. I really want us to emphasize more about the impact of the environment and also on burnout. I think it's absolutely important for us to talk about the environment.
Yeah, especially in a workplace and at home too. But we'll talk about the workplace. When you have people that are burned out, what happens is their productivity is impacted, which then, of course, puts a strain on your coworkers because they sometimes have to pick up the slack from people that aren't doing their job as well, or they start making more mistakes, or there's not enough clarity in the work, which is just creating a lot of problems, as well as people start missing work because when you're burned out, you're run down, you're more likely to catch the colds or flus, or quite frankly, you could even make yourself susceptible to catching COVID, for example. It's because if you're not resting, your immunity system is impacted. So it creates a lot of problems with that. So it starts small, but what happens, it can have a huge ripple effect in organizations, especially large businesses, of course, but even small businesses where you don't have a huge team. When you're out a couple people, you recognize right away what the impact is, and if everyone isn't as productive, then that impacts, quite frankly, the products and services that you make, which your customers suffer as well. And society suffers as a whole when we have more and more people burning out because the products and services that you and I consume aren't as good as they used to be or they could be. And that is a huge problem that we're facing.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the correlation between stress and burnout. I think it's something we also need to talk about. And now I want us to emphasize our work. So how can we identify these two properly? And what are the ways, some of the important strategies or tips that can help us to overcome it?
Exactly. Well, burnout is prolonged stress. So if you don't have prolonged stress, you don't have burnout. You don't go from zero to burnout. Although some people probably feel like they do, but burnout is prolonged stress over a period of time, and that varies for people. Some people it could take just a few days. Some people it could take a few months. Some people a couple of years. My own personal burnout journey, it took a couple of years for it to build up. But what we're seeing, of course, is when you have prolonged stress that's unmanaged and you're not doing things to cope with it, then it's problematic. So I'll give you some signs of prolonged stress that turns into burnout. Number one, you're not sleeping well. You haven't slept well in a long time. Now, I know some people have never slept well, so that's different. But this is something when you're tossing and turning all night, that's problematic because what happens is your body isn't getting the restful sleep that it needs to repair the damage that we do to ourselves on a daily basis. And another sign of prolonged stress is just a lack of motivation. And I'm not just talking about motivation to work, but you're not motivated to do things in life that you enjoy doing outside of work. That's a big sign that you're under some prolonged stress. Also, how's your mood? Are you more irritable? We're seeing a lot of people really short-tempered. Case in point, this morning I went for my morning walk, and I heard probably, I'd say 6 or 7 car horns, honking at people this morning. And normally I don't hear that much, especially at the time of morning that I was out walking, but there was a lot of people just laying on their horns and really irritated. So I think a lot of people right now in society are just mad. They're angry about a lot of different things that are going on in the world right now. So that's another sign. And also, when you're under prolonged stress and burning out, you start making more mistakes. You're not clear-headed, so you miss things. And of course, that impacts the quality of work that you do. So those are some common signs that we see with prolonged stress. And if you don't address those things, then it can definitely lead into burnout.
All right. Now, at the workplace, most times we focus on the employee burnout issues, the retention challenges they also face. I would like you to address that. But also, I'd like us to talk about leadership and stress management. The leadership has a lot of stress they face because they are handling, executive decisions, that's going to better the organizations at the end of the day. Do you have an insight to share on that?
Oh, definitely. We're seeing, and this was a study that was done, I think, a little over a year ago, that almost 7 out of 10 CEOs were considering leaving their organizations because of stress and a variety of other factors. And people emulate their leaders. So if your leaders are stressed out, that flows down to your employees. Employees tend to mimic the behavior of their managers and their leaders. So if their managers and leaders are constantly emailing you, constantly working long hours, the employees expect, right or wrong, that they probably should have to, work that same pace as well, which in many cases is not true. It's just that's how that manager or leader is. But people think, okay, if I get an email on a Friday night at 11 p.m., I need to respond to it. And that's a no-no. You shouldn't be working those hours unless that's your normal time to work, then okay. But if you are typically a 9 to 5 type of schedule, you shouldn't be responding to work issues at 11 o'clock at night unless you're on call for something. And as a leader, you shouldn't be sending your team emails that way. The technology exists now where you can delay the sending of that message, or you can save it in your drafts folder, and then you can send it when it's a normal operating hours. Because as a leader, when you send that email, unless you are crystal clear to your employees to not respond to it at whatever time you send it, they're going to think they're going to respond to it. And If it's a Friday night or a weekend, maybe your employees are out to dinner or out at the club or doing something else, and they're not at work. So why are they getting bugged with work stuff? So, that's a big thing you have to watch out for. But I'm seeing a lot of leaders are stressed, which of course ripples down to the employees. So it just makes the entire organization a big stress case, which is really unfortunate.
Also, now, how can leaders and even the employees, how can they begin to set the priorities right?
Well, first, you have to mimic the behavior that you want your culture to be. So if you want your employees to be working long hours, you're not going to get the productivity out of them because they're not at their fresh state. You want your employees to be rested, fresh, clear-headed, so they can be productive and also working in the areas that they're really talented at. Doesn't mean they can't do other things, because it's always good to have employees learn new things. But figure out where your employees are best, put them there so they can succeed and thrive. Same thing with leaders. Know your strengths, also know what you're not good at. Delegate as much as you can without overwhelming your employees, because as a lot of leaders, especially new ones, we think we have to do everything because we don't want to overwhelm our employees. That's great. But then we're overwhelming ourselves. So we have to constantly look at what we have to do, prioritize, shift some things around if you need to, in order to get the things done you need to get done right away. But again, don't overwhelm your employees, especially your superstar employees, your all-stars. I see this happen all the time, where you have this really great employee that's just amazing and they do everything really well. You have that natural tendency to just want to give them the work because they'll get it done. But what's happening is you might be overwhelming them, and all of a sudden they leave. And then you're working with people that you haven't delegated as much to, and they're not as skilled yet as that other employee. So you have to really, it's an ongoing thing. As many people would love to just say, okay, this is how we do it, and we set it and forget it. We're human beings. We evolve, things happen over time, priorities change, issues come up. So you just have to kind of ride the wave and adjust accordingly, but make sure you do it in such a way where you're not overwhelming yourself as a leader or your employees.
Right. Micheal, I would like us to shift a bit to the entrepreneurs because they also go to overwhelming challenges because they are managing their own business. Some of them don't even have workforce. They run the business themselves. And so what are some of the strategies that can help them to overcome the burnouts that they often face in their sole entrepreneurship business?
Yeah, it's an important thing to remember, because when I launched my business, it was, me, myself, and I. That was the employees. It was me. So I had to prioritize. And one key thing that I tell, new business owners that are, on their own, they're solo, no, they don't have employees to work with, is to really prioritize what is important for you to work on any given day, and try to give your days themes. So basically group similar tasks together and do those on the days that make sense. Also understand where your energy levels are throughout the day. If you're more productive in the mornings, then schedule things in the mornings. If you're more productive in the afternoons or in the evenings, then schedule things there. But have a plan every day. What am I going to work on today? Pick the top 2 things. Don't go more than 2, because we have this. And even this morning, when I was doing some things this morning before our chat today, there were a lot of things that I had, kind of mapped out, like, okay, what am I going to do? And I had this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And it's like, okay, I need to hit time out here and just stop and go, okay, what are 1 or 2 really important things for me to do today that will move things forward, whatever I'm working on? So I did, it's okay, I'm just going to work on those 2. I know I want to get to those. I'm excited. I'm anxious. I want to get those things, and I will, but not today. As much, if I have to fight it, then I will say, all right, I'm going to allocate some time this afternoon and I'll spend a half an hour on that. But that's it. You have to set boundaries around how you do it, because while it's great when you're running your own business, you want to do all these things, you don't want to run yourself down to the point where when your business is actually starting to take off, you're too tired or too drained to actually enjoy it or do anything with it. You spend all this time building this company, and then when it's finally starting to click, you're too wiped out or you're drained or you're not interested anymore. That happens all the time. It's such a sad thing to see because it robs society of new services and products that we all would love to use. But if you're too tired as a business owner to actually finish the race and put that to market, we all lose out on it. So you have to balance yourself. I know there's this challenge, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs, especially if they leave their day jobs to go full time into their own business. I understand the financial constraints. You need to generate revenue. I get that. There's nothing wrong with you taking a side role or a part-time role doing something just to bring revenue in to ease the stress of you launching your business, because we all want our businesses to do great. We want them to do, right away. Well, how long did it take Amazon, for example, to make all the money they did? They were losing money hand over fist for years, but then it finally turned. But it's been decades for them. So most of us launch our business and we're a month into it and we're going, okay, how come we're not multimillionaires yet? Does it happen? Occasionally, something will come up. You may have something that hits the right time and is a need, then congratulations, but that's not the norm. It takes time, effort. You figure out what you need to work on and focus on, but pick a couple things every day that can help you move your organization forward. Don't overwhelm yourself. You're going to get to it, or you may find out that you do the one or two things and that does enough. And that third thing, you're like, I want to do that. It may not be necessary for you to do it, or you can do it later, or you can hire somebody to do it. But long story short, don't overwhelm yourself. Schedule time for work, schedule time for play and rest and enjoyment in life, and you'll get there. If you maintain the slow and steady pace, you'll get there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Micheal Levitt, for sharing that thought with us. I just like us to talk about, balancing our priorities once again. What would you like to say on that, right? Especially still talking about entrepreneurs, right? You emphasize balance at the end of the day, focusing on what's truly important. What's the strategy he or she can take at this time?
I think before you get overwhelmed, hire help before you need it. I know the thing is, everyone says, well, I need to bring in enough revenue, then I'll hire somebody to help. You got to bring in people to do the things that are taking up a lot of your time that aren't necessarily good for you. A great example, the leadership genius Brian Tracy, and I know Jim Rohn has said this too, but Brian talks about it a lot, is you have to basically figure out, okay, what do I make an hour? So let's say you want to make $100,000 this year. Okay, divide it by 40 hours a week. You get so basically you get it down to what your hourly rate would be. So let's say it's $60 an hour. Okay, great. All right. You're going to do a social media post because you're supposed to be on social media and share what you're doing and all that stuff. Would you pay somebody $60 an hour to post something on LinkedIn or X or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok? Would you pay somebody $60 an hour? If the answer is yes, email me. I'll be more than happy to do it for you. Most people aren't going to pay that type of rate for somebody just posting content. You can hire that for a lot less money. And I know when you're trying to generate revenue, you're trying to bring in money, but you have to spend money to make money, and you have to invest it in the right spot. So if your business depends on social media interactions, then that's an area you want to invest in. So that way you get it to the point where you as the business owner are only doing things that only you can do. And yes, I understand the pain of like, I don't have enough, but start off small. Start off, okay, 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week or something. There's all kinds of automating tools now, especially with AI. More and more tools are out there where you can do things a lot faster and a lot more efficiently than we were before. So as every day goes by, there's more and more things available to help streamline the work that we do so we can focus more and more on what we do. So you got to figure out what do you want to do? Map it out and, how long it'll take. Use a coach or an advisor that has done it that can say, yeah, that's going to take longer, or you could probably do that sooner. Work with somebody and get, some help on that. I help it. There's a lot of people out there that help organizations with this, but ultimately you just figure out, okay, where are the steps? It's just like a recipe, quite frankly. If you want to bake a cake or cook some type of meal, there's a recipe, there's ingredients, but there's also, with those ingredients, a time to put them in. If you just dump it all into a thing and throw it in the oven for 350 degrees for half an hour, but you don't follow the instructions, who knows what you're going to end up with? It's probably going to be messy. So there's steps you have to follow in order to make that dish, that meal, taste like you want it to taste. It's the same thing with your business. What do you want your business to be? Where are you now? What are the steps to get you there? What order should they be in? And when you do that, it relieves a lot of stress in the guessing of things. It doesn't mean you're not going to adjust things along the way as market concerns and everything else come up. But if you follow a recipe or a plan, it's a whole lot easier to get to that end result that you want than this scattered all over the place trying to do everything, which we see a lot of new business owners do.
Micheal, my audience are looking forward to any exciting news you have to share with them, or any projects in the pipeline.
Well, I think the key thing to remember in life is don't burn out. Burnout can be really catastrophic for you. If you go to my website, breakfastleadership.com/burnout book, you can get a free PDF copy of my Burnout Proof book. It's really a quick read. It's less than 100 pages. It's written for you to be able to read it and understand what burnout is, how to recover from it, how to prevent it from your life. It's intended to be a quick study, so you can read it in one setting, or you can just look at different sections if you like. But ultimately, my goal in life is I don't want anybody to burn out, because it robs society of great things and great people, and I don't want to see that. So, that's my recommendation to the audience is go grab that book. It's free, no cost, no obligation. Read it, comment on it if you like, and reach out to me if you have any questions or want to dig deeper into it. There's plenty of resources available. So really appreciate the people listening to our chat today, for sure.
Thanks once again, Micheal Levitt, the founder of Breakfast Leadership. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on today's show, especially talking about workplace burnout and how we can overcome that. I wish you best of luck in all the projects that you embark upon, Micheal.
Thank you very much for your time today.
All right. Thank you so much once again. Now, if you'd like to catch up with any missed episodes of the podcast, you can do so on any cross-promotion platforms or any distribution platforms that you get to online. Just type Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen, and here you go. You have a great time as you listen to experts, thought leaders, and professionals share their thoughts, insights, and also disruptive in nature about topics under personal development and self-improvement. Now, I need you to stay safe. I always talk soon.